All right. Should be good to go. Okay. So we are officially live on Reflection Artists Live podcast. Today is Wednesday, April 7th, and we have two special guests on with us today. We have Jason Yard, which is the marketing manager from Malco Products, and then we also have Bill Kleines, which is the product specialist of Malco Products. Each of them have equally been with Malco for now 4 years. However, they have their own distinct background. Jason's been in the industry for quite a few years with vehicle wraps and also moving into now products and being with Malco for 4 years. And then Bill himself detailing since he was 14. So he has quite the background when it comes to the detail side of it. But point being, we want to get to know these guys, who they are, the positions they play at Malco, and of course, what has led them into this industry and or the position they currently have today. So thank you guys for being on. And I guess we'll start with you first, Jason, just to give us a little background of, how you got involved in the industry, and maybe touch a little bit in regards to, your past things that you've done that have led up to this point as well. So we could get a rounded idea of the other stuff that you're able to do and what you have knowledge in.
Justin, you were cutting in and out just a little, and I don't know if that's my end or yours. Were you kicking it off to me first?
Yes. Sorry.
So a little bit about myself, my background. I started detailing cars. It started with my folks' cars in the driveway, and moved into friends and families, doing just kind of on the side work, for beer money or whatever through high school and college. Never really started it as a business. It was just really a hobby. And I've always been a car guy from a very young age, and just really into, every aspect of keeping a car clean and making it look good and the best it can. As I mentioned before, I was in the graphics industry for over 10 years. Doing vehicle wrap training. So there's a lot of those aspects that carry over, back and forth. You have to prep the vehicle a specific way. You have to take care when it comes to removing emblems and cleaning around emblems and stuff like that. So there's a lot of those things that translated pretty nicely. And I basically did training all over the country, North America, for over 10 years, doing vehicle wraps and all kinds of different graphics, floor graphics, wall graphics, window graphics, anything that you'd print and peel and stick. Through that, it gave me, even better understanding of how to work around a vehicle and just, the ins and outs of kind of taking door panels off, and sometimes you have to take off handles and stuff like that. So definitely gave me a good back.
That could be kind of tricky though, with I'm sure a lot of these vehicles taking these door handles off. That's scary to me.
That's one of the things that separates a good installer from an expert. If you know your way around a vehicle to take off a door handle or a side view mirror, your wrap is going to hold up that much better. It's going to look that much better at the end of the day. So. And then the last 4 years, almost 4 years, been with Malco as product manager and marketing manager, really looking after the full product portfolio. We have another guy on our team that kind of rounds out the product team, but it's Bill and Miles and myself that really look after not only development with our lab, but commercialization from start to finish for any of our products.
Very nice. Very nice. So with the position though, overall, like how did that come about with Malco on your plate, the brand, the company, and all that? I mean, where did that kind of land in your lap to get you involved with them?
Well, I was with my previous company for, like I said, over 10 years. And it came a time, management changes, stuff like that, where I wanted to kind of branch out, and I kind of done everything I wanted to in that industry, became an industry expert, became part of a similar organization to IDA where it was for wrap professionals. And so I did kind of everything that I wanted in that industry, and I wanted to stay within kind of the automotive industry and get closer to that. And an opportunity came about, which was only 20 miles, not even 15 miles from my house, with Malco, and I kind of checked all the boxes, I guess, and it was a good fit for me to lend my product management background, but also kind of passion. I think you have to have passion for this type of thing if you're really going to succeed as a marketer, as a product manager, or even as an industry expert.
Oh, that makes sense. So with that said, I mean, did you go in, you just had a basic interview, or how did all that kick off for you?
Yeah. I unlike Bill, I didn't know anybody there when I got my first interview. So it was really kind of going in blind and learning more about the business. I had never really heard of Malco before my first interview, and just kind of went through the process and met Seth and Stuart and the rest of the team. And like I said, it was a good fit for both sides.
Now, I know that you've grown in the company. What position did you start off with once you got the job at Malco?
I was hired in to do specifically product management, which is my background more so than anything. But quickly thereafter, we had some people move around and leave the organization, and so I quickly moved up to marketing manager with kind of an overseeing of several different aspects of the marketing team, not just product management. So it evolved from there, and really it's a family-owned company, so it's still fairly small. So we wear a lot of hats. Everybody pitches in when they need to and does what they have to. So.
And then you work a lot with Bill as well. And because of
we're kind of a package deal.
Marketing, yeah.
That's probably why you're talking to both of us today. Is we work hand in hand to not only develop the products from inception, ideation, all the way to launch, but he works really well with the lab to help develop those products, and not only develop them but understand them inside and out. And I'm not a detailing expert per se, at least not yet, but with his knowledge and my knowledge combined, we make a pretty good team.
Very nice. Very nice. So you guys complement each other in regards to where one area you're not as an expert in, he is, so it helps out as being a team, and vice versa.
Absolutely.
So with that going on now with Bill, give us a little background that that got you started in the industry, Bill, from that young teenage year age.
So it's actually it's a family thing. My whole family's into cars, both sides, and I've just grown up around it all my life. Anything with an engine and or two wheels really has always been interesting to me. Needless to say, I started detailing really young because it was really the only thing they'd let me do. I wanted to get in there and start working on the engines and everything, and do some body work and everything. And they were like, well, you got to start somewhere, and they let me start there. And I progressed. I started off just wiping stuff down by hand as a kid, and by the time I was 14 years old, I had customers coming to my house dropping cars off, and I was detailing cars on the weekends, weeknights. And it actually, allowed me to buy my first muscle car before I was even 16.
Nice.
And it helped, push me even further and deeper into the automotive industry. So from there, I went to a college called McPherson College, and I got a 4-year bachelor's degree in classic car restoration.
Were you still detailing while you were in college?
Yeah, a little bit, but I mean, my time was just so split that I was able to bring my detailing background into the restoration, because details are important in restoration, especially when you're going, you've been there, Pebble Beach style. That was the level at which I was going for. And in that industry, there's nothing but perfection that's acceptable. So with a detailer's mindset, that really set me apart from a lot of other people that came from, maybe working on tractors at a farm. Not to say that there wasn't great things from that too, but there's a level of cleanliness and expectation that you're already at.
Yeah.
So I always thought that was like a benefit of having that detailer mindset no matter really whatever you're doing in the automotive industry, details are super important. So from there, I actually got an internship and worked with Mercedes-Benz in Germany for a little while in the Classic Center. So
in Germany, huh?
yeah, I was
Wow.
in Fellbach, Germany, and traveled throughout Europe a little bit, came back, worked at a restoration shop down in Florida near you, moved to California, ran a restoration shop and did vintage Mercedes for about 4 years. And then got a little burned out on the West Coast and decided to come home. So I'm back in Akron, Ohio now. And, you know, Jason kind of alluded to it, but I may or may not have had a couple friends that were at Malco. And, you know, they had heard that I was back in town and, you know, still looking to be in the automotive industry, but maybe a little bit different outside of the restoration. And it was just a really great fit. So the Glaubermans are a great family to work with. And, you know, we've got a really awesome team to work with as well. Everybody's an automotive enthusiast. So
Yeah, that's always a cool thing.
and they get it. And it's a nice place to be just because, you know, we've got the same thought process.
So who was it that you knew that helped get your foot in the front door?
So I think, you know, John Miller, correct?
Yeah.
Malco National Sales Manager. He's a personal family friend of mine. So it worked out very, very well. He had started, you know, about 6 months ahead of me, and some people had moved around a little bit, and it all fell into place at the right time.
Now, when you started with Malco, did you still go in for the standard interview and things like that? And,
Oh, yeah.
Get the rundown like everybody else?
Yep. Still had to go through the process and, you know, met with Seth. And, you know, once the onboarding process was over, it's kind of been rock and roll since. So we've really
What position did you start with?
I started as a product specialist.
Oh, nice.
I've actually, I wear a lot of hats because now I do a lot with social media as well. So I'm sure every once in a while you see across the Facebook, you know, you'll see our videos and everything pop up, and I help a lot with the video.
Yeah, you guys do really good videos, and they're fun. That's the thing about it. They're not just cut dry. This is your product. This is how you apply it. And then this is your results. Great, buy it. No, you guys actually put time and thought into it, and you're enthusiastic, but at the same time you have fun with it, which is really cool.
Yeah,
so
we try and have a good time. I think it's pretty hard for Jason and I to be 100% serious when we're on or there's a camera in front of us. So it's a good time, but we get a lot done too.
Very nice. Now, as you guys plan as a team, let's dive into, you know, what you guys have accomplished for Malco and what you could take credit for in regards to some of that product development. As those 4 years have come together for you guys, and you've obviously come even closer and closer over time, what products have you guys really been on the forefront of that you could take a lot of credit for developing and promoting and things like that?
Well, I'll let Bill start because he's integral in the Epic series. I kind of came in at the tail end of it, so I can't take a lot of credit for that one.
So the Epic compounding system was actually my first project when I started at the company, you know, 4.5 years ago now. And it was definitely my first time, you know, in product development. I'd never been on that end of the spectrum before. I've always been, you know, the end user. So it was really interesting for me to step in and be able to work with our chemists and, you know, our sales team and have this wealth of information to work off of. You know, we need to know attributes of what's going on in the industry that people like, what's going on that they don't like, you know, dusting, runtime. And it was definitely eye-opening, but at the same time, it gives you the opportunity to cater something the way you think it should be. And collectively, we had a lot of people that were involved in that project, from sales to, you know, just about anybody in the office. And it was a neat experience to be involved in. So since the Epic compounding system all the way up to now, you know, Jason and I have been on just about everything you've seen in the last 4 years, I would think.
How long would you say it took you guys to really dial in that Epic system?
So from start to finish on the Epic system, it was actually one of the fastest we've ever done. And we turned that out in roughly 6 or 7 months.
Oh, wow.
So it doesn't always work out that way. You
No.
know, when you're in a lab and you're working with chemicals, sometimes they play nicely together and other times they don't. But the pieces fell together on that one. And I think you've used it as well. It's a solid system. It worked really well.
Oh yeah, that's one of the things. The system itself is definitely seals the deal for those that are getting into detailing or starting to get into paint correction and that aspect of the detailing. But yeah, the compound, like yourself, you start to play with so many compounds. You look at all these different characteristics, and you start to try to figure out what's going to be the best fit for that compound based on its characteristics and of course the paint you're working with. But the Epic compound itself, the heavy cut, that stuff is in a category of its own, because you guys have hit the mark on more of the sweet spot of it being able to deliver a high level of cut, a great level of finish, minimizing dusting. I mean, dusting's, right? Sometimes it's the pad, sometimes it's the user. There's so many variables to that aspect of it.
Right.
And but overall work time too, right? I mean, the work time on it and being favorable to many different paint systems. You guys definitely hit the mark there. The rest of the lineup is good too, but my favorite out of the three is the heavy cut, and we use that in our arsenal quite often. Usually I'm bugging Jason for something if I start to run out, and I buy that stuff in the gallons. That's not a quart, keep it in the cabinet, need when used. It is we're using it. That's one of our go-tos, one of our top three to say that's in the cabinet for that reason. Yeah. Once I got turned on to it, I was like, wow, I need more of this. This is like liquid crack.
That's a good endorsement.
Yeah. Well, not literally. I mean, I don't drink the stuff, but
I recommend it.
I recommend it. So with that said, though, Jason, as far as your role in the Epic line, I mean, where did you contribute to that? You said you came in towards the end of that.
Yeah. So they had just launched it and I think that was part of the push for a new product manager was Miles was really kind of overwhelmed with launching it, not only on the Malco side, but launching similar product on the Presta side. And there was a lot of horsepower put behind that product. It was going to be a home run. So everything kind of after that, so we've continued the Epic line with, the Revive New for the plastic cladding and, rubber on your vehicle. And then the CR2 has been kind of our biggest hit in the last couple of years. With the push for spray ceramics and ease of use for ceramic type coatings. So that one has been that one I can take a lot of credit for. Bill obviously helped develop, but we launched that about 2.5 years ago, and it's been nothing but success. And there's been a number of other home runs like the iron blaster for removing the iron particulates. That's continues to be a good product. And last year we launched Epic fabric coat and leather coat. Again, just great protection to round out kind of that line where we really position it as your high performance product line.
So just to kind of spin off of what you said with the new development of the leather coat, I get an opportunity to play with a lot of manufacturers' products, and not to single out any individual manufacturer, but you guys have hit the mark on a lot of stuff, and a lot of manufacturers do, but not every product is a home run, right? Sure. And that's the thing about being a detailer and being a technician, is that we get to be able to play with this stuff and figure out. Sometimes it's personal preference. The product may work great, but it may not just be your personal preference. And some are like that. However, I got to say that leather coat with being able to take a traditional leather conditioner approach with something that goes on easy, that could be massaged in, not leave any oily residue and still leave, not permanent hardcore protection, but some stuff that's going to give you quite a few months based on, wear and tear and traffic, of course.
Right.
That stuff is badass. That has been a game changer for our shop because we've been able to transition from traditional leather coat without having to change our prices and give incentive to the customer. So when they come in for their interior, they're using us because we're giving them extra without having to pay extra.
Nice.
And it's, and that in itself, those are the little things that manufacturers should look at for the end users. Where can they change up their arsenal without having to change their pricing and offer more, deliver more, and give more value? And that's what you guys hit the mark with a product like that. Don't get me wrong, the other products are great too, but just to single that one out, and it works. It works to every benefit of what you guys have marketed it for, including the video of showing where you did the 50-50 on the headrest and put the pen mark across it. I did that myself, and it's solid. So that helps a lot. And I personally, in my area, we live in an engineer-based community. I have NASA, SpaceX, as being on the Space Coast, but I also have a lot of Northrop Grumman, Rockwell Collins, Harris, like all these big corporations. So a lot of these guys, they have casual days where they're wearing blue jeans, to my point. So those blue jeans has dye transfer. And I've gotten actually a couple of compliments back where I had one gentleman, he had his baby wipes in the car from his kids, and he used the baby wipes and it wiped right off. And at that point I was just like, that's it. That's what we're using. So kudos to you guys in regards to the leather coat, because that is definitely a good product for the industry and for detailers, and of course the end user, the customer.
Good. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
But so with the coating though, the initial, or the official, I should say, coating that you guys have, you took part in a lot of that, Bill, from what I remember you explaining to me. And you guys, just like most other companies, weren't really a coating company, and so diving into that, explain a little bit of why you guys went that direction, and then how that came up and everything, that the term it took to develop it, to get it dialed in where you wanted it to.
So I guess, we definitely recognize that, hey, listen, ceramics are going to be the thing for the next several years. We got to get into it. And we also need to understand it appropriately, because in the beginning, I'm sure you can attest to this as well, the way the ceramics were marketed was just, it was kind of the Wild West, and the claims were, it was nuts. And it was really damaging to the installer, because they had to explain to a customer, what it's truthfully going to do and what you need to actually expect. You're not going to light your hood on fire and expect it's going to be just fine all the time. So, the first thing was understanding what are the true benefits of these ceramic coatings. And once we understood, the hydrophobic attributes, it's going to help be scratch resistant, but it is not scratch resistant. We all know that. We were able to kind of dial in on a system that not only was at the time probably one of the easiest to apply, but also gave you a good working window, because you see a lot of people struggle with what they've coined now as leveling. So they'll get 2 overlaying sections that don't necessarily get either buffed off in the right period of time, or it'll just get overlooked. With ours, in the way that you were to apply it and then work to completion, so you would actually work it in, the amount of residue that was left behind was so minimal. I think that really helped with the installer, as well as just visually, you can see easier where you're at, where there was anything that was left behind, versus looking at a large area that you leave for 3 to 5 minutes and then wipe off.
So focus point is obviously in results of performance, but you guys also really focus on application process. Because that, just like a lot of these different formulations, AKA recipes, they all differ in regards to application. So basically you had to go back to the drawing board and look at that recipe to see where that would contribute to an easier install or a more user-friendly install.
Absolutely. And I think that as a trend in our industry, ease of use with a professional result is something that people are looking for. You know, the day of doing a panel size this big with a little tiny cotton applicator is over. We've got to be able to do a car, get it out of that shop space because it's taking up money in that shop. You know, that space is developing money, every car that's in and out. And when you have a car that's going to sit there for 24 hours, you're only getting paid on one job. So speed, ease of use on application, all of that comes into play. It's no good for us to come out with a product that's going to work for 10 years, but it's so hard to install that, you know, we're going to be fielding questions nonstop. Our installers are going to have a hard time, and the end users aren't going to be able to work with it either. So there's always this, you know, give and take between longevity as well and performance and application, you know, because some of those long lasting high performance coatings are not usable for everybody. It takes a very, very skilled installer to do it. So.
And the technique changes, you know, damp towel applications and, you know, high humidity atmospheres and all these different variables that just work against the installer when they're just trying to make money and make a car look good.
Yep.
Right.
And it kind of throws a wrench in the mix of that to make it harder to do that. And it's like, well, what the heck am I doing this for if it's going to be difficult?
Right.
But
well,
people,
and the other thing is we want everybody to understand their products, right? But we don't want them to have to become a chemist to use the products. And I've seen in the industry with ceramic coatings, especially, first off, there's a wild amount of disinformation. And there's also, there's so much out there that is the same, but not, you know, I feel like we're finally starting to get some standardization into it.
Mhm.
You know, we're starting to see easy to use products, realistic claims, and it's starting to kind of like calm back down. Thank goodness.
yeah.
But I think that the overarching thing with this is going to be ease of use, and it's got to be repeatable. If you can't have a repeatable product, and this isn't even just ceramic, it's anything that you're going to use. The reality is we don't have long-term positions all the time with detailers. So you've got to be able to train somebody quickly on it. They've got to be able to do it easily. And if you don't have that ability with that product, it's probably the wrong one. You know?
Yeah. And let's look at it business wise, right? If you're a one-man band and yes, you're installing coatings, you're making a killing, that's great. But there's only so many coatings you could install because there's only so many hours in a day. But at the same time, on the business perspective, how do you scale yourself and your business when you're a one-man band? It's a very difficult thing to do. It doesn't mean it can't be done, but versus having employees, now it brings you into a whole nother level of being able to scale your business. And if you're able to train people on these products because they're more user-friendly application, now you've built a business. You've built something that helps you, but the manufacturers helped you get there too because of the tools that they made available in your arsenal. And that's, again, going back to the manufacturers making it easier for the detailers to build their business. That's another one that you guys have definitely hit the mark and thinking that through because of your background, being a technician and a detailer. I'm sure that helps a lot when you're in there and you're like, oh, this formula, I'm taking it off. It's not, but we got to change this. We got to change this right now.
Well, you know, it's neat when we run into that. I've gone through in a single day 3 or 4 different variations of a single compound because my chemistry lab is next to my detailing shop.
Yep.
So, you know, we walk back and forth, we work together. Jason comes out, we all stand there and dial it into where it needs to be. Then we get feedback, you know, from people across the country and the world. We're a global company, so our products can't just work in Akron, Ohio, or Barberton, Ohio. They've got to work.
Why not?
It'd make it a lot easier if you just had to work there, right?
It worked in our lab. It should work for you in South Florida. I don't care about your humidity.
That's right.
Screw your humidity. Come install it in Ohio.
Yep.
Boom, done.
Easy.
Warranty that way.
Yeah. Just flatbed the car here. We'll take care of it for you, and then we'll flatbed it back.
I think John Miller puts it pretty well when he's talking to customers, and he says, you know, it's a partnership. And if we can't have them be successful, we can't be successful. So it's all of us working together to give them a product that's easy to use that they can use again to, make money with. If they're not making money, we're not making money. So it's, at the end of the day, it's always a partnership.
Absolutely. And that goes into the credibility of of the brand of Malco and how many decades they've been around and how large and how many facilities you guys have for the company and the organization. I mean, that it's a scenario where when you guys are getting these raw materials and you're doing this R&D and you're figuring these things out, it's not like you just jumped into this. Yes, you may have, got into coatings just more recently, but that doesn't mean the chemistry of it isn't something that's already been played with. It's just a matter of dialing in recipes and formulations. So in the time you guys take to actually R&D on a product is very important. And that's what helps contribute to the success of, like you said, making the relationships and making everything easier. And we're not always first to market with a lot of things, but when we do come out with something, we make sure it's right. We make sure it's going to work for all of our customers for the most part. So we're very conservative in that manner where, we're not going to rush something. If we think it's 90% there, we're going to make sure it's 100% to make the best possible formulation that we can. So sometimes that means you're not the first to market and you don't get that first taste into the market. I think we're okay with that. That's okay, because being first to market or not being first to market doesn't always make you the cool kid on the block.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Just because you were there, that's great. You could put that feather in your cap, but that also makes a target on your back.
Exactly.
And someone's going to probably
quickly.
Yeah, someone's going to make it bigger, better, badder. So exactly. It's one of those things where you've been able to see what else has come out, what's established, what people enjoy about that category, and then being able to dial in to make sure you could make your own version of that.
Right. Yeah, it's only been in the last 4 or 5 years that we've really tried to cater a little more towards the end user, the enthusiast market, versus the professional in the dealership or the detail shop like yourself. That was our bread and butter for 50 years, but there's a whole other world out there called e-commerce and, YouTube and social media, where if we don't have things that are, technologically advanced, we're going to be left behind. So it's only been the last few years that we've recognized a real strong push for not only coming out with newer technology in our products, but also marketing them the right way and making them available in smaller sizes for e-commerce and really targeting that market as much as we can.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is the end user and the consumer, that 16-ounce size is the sweet spot for them, not to pay too much, pay just enough and still sample it for the term that they need to really figure out if they like it or want to try something else.
Right.
Yeah. Now, with just to top on the coating itself, Bill, just give me a little technical background on durability, longevity, how many layers, all the stuff that a detailer would want to hear, just in case they aren't aware that Malco makes a coating, so they have some information on it.
Okay. So the current one, 2-year coating, we recommend a single layer. I've actually had significantly better outcomes doing a single layer than doing multi-layers. We're able to transfer a lot of solids in a single application. And from what I've seen, more often than not, people struggle with understanding one layer. And I don't know.
It's the cure time, right? If you're not going to let it properly cure before you put on that second coat, that's where they run into trouble.
Yeah. And you're actually removing some because you've got those carriers that are still involved there, and they're going to pull off anything that's on there that's not fully cured. So a lot of times you're fighting yourself and wasting product.
Cannibalistic, where it eats itself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, truth be told, we're the manufacturer, and if you want to use more product,
go for it.
We'll tell you more. But the idea is to have the best outcome possible, and to have the best outcome possible, you're going to achieve that by doing a single application with it. That being said, what's different about ours than a lot of the other ones that are on that are out there now? It's humidity cured. So if you go after this thing with a heat lamp, you're really not accelerating anything. So at the end of the day, it needs the time that it takes to cure. So it's, you want to keep it indoors or off the road for at least 24 hours. We have people that take them home after 12, but we say, if you're going to take it home, make sure the roads are dry, especially in Northeast Ohio or in Florida where it rains every day at 3:30. You've kind of got to plan accordingly. But when you're going to spend a premium to get your car done, I think that part of your planning should be that cure time at the end too, because that's just as important as the application itself. So, you wouldn't paint a car and lay out a show car paint job and pull it out of the booth before it's done curing and start messing with it. And I kind of put those two together because people understand how much body work goes in prior to paint application. And prior to ceramic application on a proper job, you should be doing paint correction. And paint correction, whether it's one step or multi-step, is time consuming. So you want to protect that job that you're putting on there. So what else? Did I miss anything, Jason?
Now, could you kind of get away with putting CR2 on top of it if you want to release it a little bit earlier? Not saying you would recommend that, but would that help any in regards to sealing the surface from the elements in case the customer absolutely has to have their vehicle back? Would that be like maybe a last kind of resort scenario?
We don't recommend it simply because there is still a percentage of water in the CR2, so it's not gonna play well if the coating isn't fully cured. Once it's fully cured, it absolutely, a day or two later, sure, you can hit it. And we have found, our by the book instructions are 24 hours to let it fully cure. Don't keep it in a controlled environment for at least 12. That's our prescribed directions, because we know people aren't going to follow them. And we know, the industry is going to do what they're going to do. But we have found that it will cure much quicker in the right humidity. And so if you don't have that perfect humidity, perhaps out in the Southwest, where, it may take that 12 hours, but in most cases, it'll probably cure quicker than that, for all intents and purposes. So we, what I will mention that, Bill asked, did I forget anything? And he kind of alluded to it with our current coating, is that we are working on, sort of a next generation. We've been doing a lot of work with evaluating what's out there, what our customers are asking for, what's the technology grown in the 3 years since we launched our coating. And so we are evaluating and looking at possibly a second gen hopefully in the next 6 to 12 months. So
that would be a second option, or would it be replacing the first?
TBD. We haven't determined that yet.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay. Understand.
That's as much as I'm willing to share at this point.
Okay. We'll leave it alone then. Enough said. Let me ask you this then. On, a year passes, you get some element build, you do the standard chemical decon. Is this something that you could take maybe a super light polish that Malco offers, whether it be out of the Epic line or something within the Malco line in general, that you could do a light polish on to kind of strip and reset the surface value, and then go back over it with that same coating just to add more, say, layers, or to add more surface value? Is that something that you could do? Because obviously the first layer would be cured for quite some time.
It really depends on how much is left behind, because sometimes, that 2-year coating, if you take it through the wrong car wash, or you just don't take care of it the right way, or if you're in, a lot of weather, leave it outside every day, whatever, it may not be there in a year. So, it may be gone. That 2-year coating may be a 1-year coating if you don't treat it the right way, and if you don't boost it with the CR2. So to answer your question, yes, you absolutely could do a polish, and if it doesn't require much paint correction, you could probably refine that surface enough and put a new layer of coating on. It just depends on how much is there
Correct,
It's
yeah.
still, it needs to bond to the paint, right?
Yep.
So it's not to say that a second layer isn't going to bond to a previous layer. It's just, it needs to be properly cured. And if that's the case, then yeah, it's no problem.
Yeah. With the right scenario, obviously, without
Right.
all those other variables.
Of
When
course.
after your chemical wash and looking at it, you're going to see areas that would be hydrophobic or not. And
Right.
that's your telling, basically, guide code. You know, when you go around the car, if it's hydrophobic and standing up, you know that the coating's still there and working properly. And you know, it's kind of an interesting thing because I've had people, just friends of mine, that have had their cars coated, and they reach out to me and they're like, it's a lot of times like fall, winter, spring when the roads are dirty, and they're like, you know, my car it's not hydrophobic anymore. I don't think my coating works. And 9 times out of 10, it's contamination on their car. You know, it's leaves, it's dirt, it's debris, it's salt. But they forget that the surface on top of all that dirt, when it finally does get the ability to collect on your car, isn't going to be hydrophobic. You know, so you've got to get that, for lack of a better term, like scum off the outside of your car for the surface of it to actually do what it's designed to do.
Yeah, no, we experience that here, and I call it being clogged because we'll get, I mean, pollen right now. Pollen's crazy.
Yeah,
And a lot
right.
of people don't realize that that's one of the things that will be quick to clog a coating's characteristics. Even though it's super fine, but on a microscopic level, it looks like a sand spur.
Sure.
And it's attaching to everything and everywhere it can. So a lot of times it will clog those characteristics. And I've gotten customers that are like, oh my gosh, we just do a wash and some kind of chemical decontamination and boom, you're back to square one.
Wipe it right off the coating?
Yeah, no, dry wipe it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get the old school California duster and I do it right in the parking lot. I figure it's courtesy.
It's a 12-year-old California duster that's been sitting on the shelf, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Looks like an over-dried microfiber towel.
Right, sure.
Oh, goodness.
I think my dad has one where when you take it off the handle, it runs away on its own.
Has its own legs.
Yeah.
So currently with, everything that, you've brought to the market with the coating category, you guys are getting a lot of positive feedback, I take it, in regards to everything that's released with the fabric, the leather, and all those other things?
Yeah, I mean, the response has been really great. Like I said, it's been almost a year since we launched the fabric coat and the leather coat, and those have been great. It's one of those things, going back to, over promising and some manufacturers just kind of over extenuating their claims, with the fabric and leather coat. You're not going to put ceramic on a leather seat, because if it's a true ceramic, it's going to harden it and it's going to be, not a plush leather seat anymore. So we wanted to get away from kind of that naming of it being a ceramic coating, but it has kind of all those properties. It's hydrophobic, especially the fabric coat. If you properly coat your fabric with it, water's going to run right off of it, and any spill or whatever they may happen is going to collect in puddles or bead up. It's not going to soak in. So we really didn't want to overpromise with calling it ceramic, but it is a true coating. And it's been.
I was going to say, Justin, you've probably seen with like fabric coatings that after a certain amount of time, it will permeate. And I think that's
it wears out
when we talk about fabric coatings.
And the cleaners they're using, right?
What's that?
And any cleaners they may be using will break it down.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And people don't realize that. And they also think that, let's say we're talking about like old school 60s, 70s hook and loop style carpet, right? So if I fabric coat that, those strands, those hooks and loops and everything, those are going to be fabric protected. But there's such a wide weave there that you're never going to get, water to stand on top of a weave that you can basically see through.
Yeah.
But so that's one thing that I always kind of bring up so people understand it. And then another thing is, when they're installing it, if you wipe down the carpet, just like you would a suede, chair or jacket, and it lays in one direction, and you spray it on, let it dry, and then wipe it the other way, spray it on, let it dry, you've essentially covered two sides of that strand. So there's little things that you can do that kind of help that as well. But I always try and talk to that and give realistic expectations. So,
Now, if somebody oversaturate with your product, is there any issues that may cause with oversaturation, or they just have to wait and let it dry?
longer drying time.
Yep.
Because I know that some of them can change the textile feel of like the traditional Scotchgard.
Yeah.
And that's one that, you see at every store that most people would go and grab because it works at home, right? Let's put it in our car, and next thing you know, it's like cardboard.
Yep.
And or tacky, because the humidity in our state of Florida just doesn't allow it to really set up.
Right.
So, well, that's good.
Well, I don't know if you saw, but we did a video a month or two ago now, going back, and we were actually doing shoes with the fabric protection. And so I wear Vans every day, and I'm in a shop. So I do the tops of all my Vans with the fabric protection, and it honestly helps.
Nice. Very nice. I'm the same way. I got stuck with a brand shoe that I've been wearing since I was a teenager, and I just haven't got away from it. What about you, Jason? What are you wearing for your shoes today?
Whatever's cheap.
Crocs.
I do have a pair of garage Crocs. I'm not gonna lie. Love those. But no, usually I'm a Doc Martens kind of guy, and got my slew of Nikes. I never really got into the skater shoe scene, if you will. Yeah,
it works when you skate.
Yeah.
I'm not a skater. I fall down and hurt myself.
We don't need that happening. They need you there. So as far as your daily routine for you, Bill, you're usually out in the shop still testing stuff, still playing with stuff on the daily?
So I do a little bit of, I help with the marketing a lot of times in the morning. So I'll come in and I'll step in and, answer some questions that would come in from online that maybe needed a technical answer. And then a lot of times I balance my time between shop and office a lot of times, and it depends on what we're trying to develop. Sometimes it's 5 days a week in the shop. Other times it's, just a mix. It really depends on what project we're doing. And that's kind of the neat part about my job is it's not the same every day. I do something different almost every day. Sometimes I'm out in the field and I'll just go sit in the shop and I'll watch people work. And it sounds kind of weird, but I'm looking for struggles or, things that people don't normally look at, but I want to see how they apply their product to their pad. I want to see, how far do they push the products before they give up on them on consumables like pads, magic erasers, just anything and everything. So, there's a lot of just watching and taking in what you see that happens too.
Nice. How about yourself, Jason? What's your daily routine like?
Well, in the last year, it's been strictly office, which is painful for all of us. We haven't had the ability to travel in the last year. That's starting to open up finally. But yeah, generally it's most days are in the office. I usually am back in the detail bay with Bill, at least, half a day to a full day a week. Where we're looking at something new or doing some new testing. But I'm anxious to get back out in the field because like Bill said, even if it's riding on a truck with a distributor, meeting, different detailers out in the field, or, just kind of working side by side with somebody to understand their processes. It helps me kind of see what's out there, what they're, like Bill said, what they're struggling with. What the opportunities are for new products and making our products better or whatever the case. So I'd like to be traveling, once or twice a month, somewhere out in the field. And hopefully we'll get back to that here soon.
Well, the fact that you guys do that you jump on some of the trucks that go, shop to shop, dealership, getting that, in the field or in the trenches to say feedback directly from the end user is awesome.
You have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't create products for an industry in a vacuum. And so, we work closely with our sales team to understand their needs, You know, we work very closely with Malco of Ohio, which is a sister company of ours that, you know, we're able to kind of get direct feedback, honest feedback from the field, and they cover most of Ohio. So that's invaluable, you know, resource to us as well.
I like it.
It's always a learning opportunity too. You know, I don't care if somebody's been working for 6 months or 40 years. You know, that's why I kind of hate the term expert, because every time you go in somewhere, if you're paying attention and you don't know everything, you can actually learn something new. So, you know, I've picked stuff up from people that have just started, and it's maybe just because they do something that seems to be natural to them, but other people don't do it.
Yeah.
So, you know, having your eyes open and paying attention to things sometimes definitely is a benefit.
No, that's a very true statement. I've seen that myself from guys coming into the industry. They just have a unique way of doing things that's like, I've never seen it done like that.
Yeah.
I like that. And then the word or the term expert is used so loosely in every industry, not just ours, but every industry, because I think it's more of a marketing word now more than anything.
Sure.
That's, I think, more of what it's become. And it kind of sucks because it's not, doesn't always hold the true value that it once did when it was used. Now
I find it as negative. Honestly, when I go into a place and people call me an expert, people already look at you and expect you to have a certain way you carry yourself. I want to be seen as like a partner, you know, so I'm going to come in there and let's work together and I'll help you finish a car you're working on. And let's figure out what you're trying to get through together. You know, that when you come in with a hierarchy over somebody, you're going to lose them right away. But if you come in and you work with them on the same level playing ground, you might learn something and you're going to do it a lot quicker because they're not threatened. You know, when you come in and you tell somebody how to do their job that they've been doing for 40 years or 20 years, especially when you're young like I am, they're like, well, this punk kid doesn't know anything and I'm not going to listen to him. But if I come and I work with you like I'm your partner, you know, we're going to have a lot better working relationship and probably learn from each other.
I completely can relate. I get that all the time. I'm 38, but I look 25 and I got tattoos. So I automatically just get discredited until I open my mouth. Then things change a little bit.
Yep. Gotta prove yourself.
So with that, and thank you guys so much. We are coming up on the time frame of ending the podcast. However, I want to get words of advice from each of you. So I'll start with you, Bill. What word of advice in regards to, it could be anything. It could be people getting into the industry. It could be guys out, you know, selling products. It could be anything. But what's some good word of advice that you would have that you could put out there for somebody?
Well, you know, this day and age, we have so many resources available to us. You know, from YouTube, there's all these online forums. There's local groups, you know, you can get in with local car clubs. I would say utilize the resources available to you because the information is available at your fingertips. So, you know, become proficient with whatever aspect you want to be, you know, involved in the automotive industry, and just dive into it and ask people questions because you can't learn without asking a dumb question. You know, I ask questions all the time and I'll only ask a dumb question one time because after that I know it. And it's really not a dumb question. People are just afraid to ask it. So, you know, I think that they just have to be humble and learn. Use all your resources and learn.
Yeah, I like that. Definitely exercise your resources.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. Jason?
Well, I'm going to not be original and just piggyback on that, just because that was what first came to my mind was education. And, you know, that what you've done, Justin, with the IDA and you know, a lot of the other industry experts have really given themselves to this industry in ways that most other industries don't. And so I've been lucky enough to be through several different industries, you know, the retail sector, like I said, the graphics industry, the manufacturing, the different sectors of industry. And I've never seen such, I don't know if I want to call it brotherhood, but there's a true want and need for people to succeed and help each other. And so that, you know, to carry or piggyback on what Bill said, it's educating yourself, look at all those resources, but also, you know, befriend some of the industry folks out there, whether they're experts or not. You know, even if there's somebody learning that like you know, at any of one of the events, and obviously we haven't had events in the last year, but hopefully we get back to that where we can have some camaraderie and really feed off each other for, you know, just learning and bringing each other to the next level. That's the biggest thing is, you know, bringing your craft up, bringing your knowledge up, and taking it to the next level.
Thank you, Jason. Yeah. Thank both of you guys for your time and background and people getting to know you and getting to know more about your positions at Malco. And this is something that, you know, for those who listen, watch, or whatever approach you were able to take to get this in front of you, if you ever need to learn more about Malco or have interest in talking with somebody, these are the two guys. I mean, there's a huge team there, but these two guys are, you know, the educational resource for product development and all that goes out that you see when you're reading up or watching videos. So they're the brains behind that, and they'd be the perfect people to call, email, and just, you know, pick their brain in regards to you diving into the Malco line of products. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. This is again another number 23 of the Reflection Artist Live. So hopefully we'll have you on when we get into out of the double digits and into the triple digits and revisit where we are then. Hopefully we'll have a couple events under our belt and feel a little bit more normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Yeah, me too. I appreciate you guys taking the time today. I appreciate Seth allowing you guys to come on and enjoy the hour of free time with me.
Yeah, it was funny because I reached out to Clint after I saw your first couple, and I said, you know, if you guys ever need anybody, you know, Bill or I would be interested. And Clint said, yeah, well, we actually have Seth. I already asked him. And I said, okay, well, you know, if there's a future one. And he said, no, we'll get both of you guys on the same one. And I was like, okay, whatever you want to do, Clint. So we really appreciate, you know, the invite and shooting the breeze with you. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's always fun spending time with you guys. So thank you again for being on. Let you get back to your day. And thank you everybody for listening and or watching. Again, another live podcast with Reflection Artist Live. Everybody take care and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.